They proved that it was possible to be on social media, but also have time to buy a good magazine printed. As long as this magazine has a lot of quality. So it's a good paper with good pictures, good design, and good histories.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the Play Your Own Style Network. This is Fong, your host as usual. Today we have Spanish football writer and journalist Toni Padilla here today. Welcome, Toni. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so I know you are a really experienced writer, but for our followers, they might not be that familiar because we are Instagram account transmitter in Hong Kong, and they might not know much about your background. Can you explain how you fall in love with football and how you become a journalist in football?
Oh, it's long to explain. I started as a journalist when I was a teenager. I was 15 years old, barely a child, and in my hometown, that is Sabadell, it's a city close to Barcelona. I'm a huge fan of my football local team, Sabadell. Now we're in third division, but in the past we used to play in the top flight. And at the time we didn't have a local radio. It was almost impossible to follow all the games. So alongside a friend, we decided to go to a local radio and proposal to do the live all the games, traveling with the team. I made it because I love football and I love the team, but I fell in love with the radio, I fell in love with journalism, and then I became a journalist when I was 19 years old. They offered me my first job in a local newspaper, and then I started to find other works. Most of my career I spent it following all the news related with FC Barcelona. I've been working for them for more than 20 years, traveling with the team, the good times with Pep Guardiola, the bad times as well with the crisis and COVID-19 and Bartomeu's years of presidency. That was a nightmare. And also I used to work with some televisions, and I write books, so I'm quite busy, always working hard.
Okay, so I see you wrote a lot of books that. Sorry. Okay, so you like football. So how did you enter the sports media industry to become a sports journalist? I mean, when you decide to be a sports journalist, do you just like you said you just like radio, so you decide to be a sports journalist, or do you have any factors to decide you are going to be a sports writer to be an occupation?
No, it was not on my head at the beginning. When I was a teenager, my idea was to go to college and study history.
Okay.
And in fact, I studied history at college. But what happened is, as explained, that at the time in my town, it was not a radio doing all the football games live. So we proposed to do it with a friend, and well, that changed my perspective, because my relation with football was just as a football fan. But suddenly I find myself traveling, and my voice was giving the news about my team to all the football fans in Sabadell City. So that it was a way to learn a lot of things that I could not talk as a fan, and I should talk as a journalist and be serious and inform about all that. So I fell in love with languages and communication. And then even before going to college, it was a local newspaper that as I was doing the games and I knew the players, they offered me my first job as a football writer. I was a teenager, and they offered me my first salary. That was crazy for me. And well, it was almost like I didn't have a plan to be a journalist, and I found myself being journalist, and then it became a love affair, and I'm in love with my job.
Okay, so I saw you write a lot of articles, a lot of books, so you tend to put history and football together. What do you think the two things have in common to let you put them together?
What I love is to explain histories. I think it's one of the best things about journalism is when you find an interesting history and you explain it, and it's a lot of uncommon. Well, as I explained, I went to college and I studied modern history, really related with politics. I thought that it was really interesting. And then you discover that obviously it's a connection with football. Some people say that football is not connected with politics, but it's not true, because politics is connected with everything. Politics is how we explain the world works. So it's also really, so we cannot, for example, now that everyone is talking about why Saudi Arabia are putting a lot of money in football, that's about politics. It's not that someone decided to do it just for sports or not. It's the royal family of Saudi Arabia that they changed the way they explain themselves to the world. They opened the borders. They used to be a closed country. Now they want to be open-minded, to avoid local revolutions as in other Arab countries they have. And now that's why they use the money they have to send a concrete image of Saudi Arabia. That's politics. And why we have a World Cup in Qatar? That's politics. And why the relation between Barca and Madrid is not good? It's politics as well. So it's easy for me to explain these things as well on the same time. It doesn't mean that I just explain histories, write histories related with politics. No, I also love human histories, tactical football, everything. It's just that, in my opinion, we cannot explain football without avoiding the politics. The politics are always there.
Okay, so I read your Instagram account and also your books. So I see you travel a lot. Do you think traveling is part of the fundamentals of your writing as well?
Well, I sometimes I think that I work so hard in order to then have the money to have a good holidays and travel as far away as is possible. I'm quite a curious person, and I want to go to all the places. My dream will be to visit all the countries in the world. I think that all the countries are interesting, and everywhere you can find good histories. Everywhere you can find passion. Everywhere you can find good and bad people. So when I travel, I learn. I love to talk with local people, different cultures, different points of view, and for me it's like a way to be open-minded, to respect the rest of the world, and to learn of everyone. So yes, I really love to travel.
So when you're writing books or writing an article about Italy, do you think it's important you talk with Italians and then go to Italy to feel the atmosphere there and the emotions there yourself?
Yes, well, I think that the mission that we have, the journalists, sometimes is take an history and send it to other people. Yes, so we are not the most important things. We just talk with the local people, and the things that they explain, bring it to other persons. So in this case, I love to bring to Spain histories that I learned in Italy. That's the best thing about journalism and write books. That it's you learn a lot of things. These things shock you. You have passion for it, and then you want to explain it to the other people. That's why I think that if you want to be a good journalist, it's important how you talk, how you write, but it's something even more important is how you listen. It's really important to listen to other people and to ask them questions, to make questions.
So nowadays we have a lot of journalists that are not working in the traditional journalists, maybe working in their YouTube channels or Twitch, and then they analysis game and reporting a lot of things about football. So they might not go to the stadiums and working about the football articles at their home. Do you think this kind of digital media can considered as journalism as well?
My point of view is that the platform is not so important. What is important is the attitude of the journalist, the attitude of the persons. I think that in the new platforms, in social media, in Twitch, in TikTok, in Twitter, in Instagram, it's a lot of good journalism and also bad journalism as well. But also in the old journalism, radios, TVs, newspapers, it used to be good journalism and also bad journalism. So it's a lot of young people that maybe they don't have the chance to go to the stadiums, but the approach they have, it's the right one. It changed the way you explain histories. Now you can do it sitting alone at your home, thanks to the new platforms. But as I mentioned, for me, the most important thing is your attitude. If you're a curious person and you want to make yourself a question and find the answers. So for me, it's not so important, the platforms. Okay, it's true, in the past we used to have the papers printed in your hand, and now you will read more in the phones and other things. It's changing the platforms. But what's important is that if you can trust the person that is behind, and that doesn't change. It's a really good young people doing a lot of amazing things, and it's just try to find them and avoid the people that are they want to do bad journalism, but they've been there always, also in the past.
Okay, so there's a trend in Europe and also in Hong Kong in Asia. They put the variety show and the football show together, and then they play some games with the players, or they play they make interviews, but also in a fun way, like an entertainment show. What do you think about this kind of show? Are they reporting football, or do you consider not part of the football show? Because like in Spain, you guys have a few shows like that as well.
Well, it's true that now we have a lot of a show and a lot of people screaming and all that. But I think sometimes we need to look at the past and have memory. When I was a little child, I'm talking back in the 90s, in the Spanish television, we used to have shows as well, like this. We were really bad TV shows. It was one that it was presented by the former president of Atlético de Madrid, Jesus Gil Gil, that used to be quite a polemic person, and he was doing live a TV show, live from a jacuzzi surrounded by girls in bikini. That's what it was on TV when I was a little child. So when the people say that now it's this kind of show related with football, I said it's the same that it was in the past. When I was a little child, in television it was the same. But as we didn't have social media at the time, it's like we forget about things. So for me, that's not something to worry about it. Show should be there. I don't like it. I don't want to do it, but it's there. I just prefer to focus in the way that I understand journalism and try to do my own way. Because also it's true that sometimes when you spend all the day working hard, maybe you reach home and what you want to have is some show. And I don't have a problem with shows as long as they respect the persons. If they cross this red line, if they don't respect the football players, if they don't respect the board of the clubs, if they lie, for me, then they have a problem. But if they scream, they dance, and they do it respecting the people, for me, it's not a problem.
Okay, so let's talk about social media a bit more, dig into it a bit more. So now we have social media affecting the journalism. So how much do you think social media has changed the landscape of reporting football?
Well, it's true that social media changed it all. The main thing is that it changed speed. Now we want to know all the things in just 1 second. And as we just using the phone, we can connect. And it's like we change our minds. It seems that everything is really close and really fast. And sometimes we should accept one thing, is that some things, they need time. For example, I don't know, an example. It seemed, for example, Lionel Messi. How is that he ended playing in the United States in Inter Miami and he didn't sign with Barca? So the people at the second want to know all the talkings, all what is happening, and it's impossible because the truth is just in the hands of the president of Barca, Messi. And sometimes to have the version of these people, you need weeks to talk with them. But the people is there, what is going on? And that puts some pressure on the journalists. Sometimes we just know what happened, the truth, after a lot of weeks. Sometimes the people doesn't want to explain what happened in years, and that's a problem. That now we have a lot of pressure on journalists because the people want to know at the second what is going on. But we should accept that it's impossible to know it at the second because, for example, I don't know who knows right now the reality between Kylian Mbappe and Real Madrid. Just Kylian Mbappe and Florentino Perez. Just them. But suddenly all the people is going there in Twitter and putting pressure on the journalists and they say, okay, I know the truth. They don't know nothing because they talk with an agent, so they maybe have an idea, a prox idea. But that is what changed a lot in social media, the speed and the pressure on journalism.
Okay, so what do you think about the responsibility of our football writers? So because some of the journalists just like to publish things that are not confirmed to be true, just to have some more rates in their social media. What do you think about this trend?
Well, I respect them, but it's not the journalism I want to do. I still think that it's true that social media is changing a lot of things, but at the end, it's something that doesn't change, and is that the people will respect you for the way you behave. So if I start to try to be the first one and give some breaking news, and at the end it's wrong, the people will not trust me. So I prefer to be the last one, but every time that I'm talking, is talking because I really know the things than trying to be the first one. But that's why I'm not good giving exclusives and breaking news. I'm really bad on that. I just during most of my career, I didn't give a lot of breaking news, just twice. But then what I try to do is to talk with a lot of people, to have sources, and try to write about the whole history when it's done. So, for example, when Lionel Messi went to Miami, obviously I didn't give the breaking news, but when I done then is try to speak with the people at Inter Miami that were in the talkings with Lionel Messi, try to talk with the family of Lionel Messi, and try to give the whole history after some weeks. I think that is my role as a football writer.
So let's talk about Panenka, the Spanish football magazine that you are part of the project. So I read 2 or 3 copies of the Panenka, and I feel like it's quite different from other Spanish football media because it have a lot of depth. So what is the principle about Panenka, this football magazine?
Well, the idea of Panenka is that we're a little bit crazy and we're doing all the things that the rest of the world is saying you should not be doing that. At the moment where everything is saying that all should be digital, we decide to bring on a magazine printed. That was like kind of countercultural. What we've done is try to learn some of the experiences that we saw that were going on in countries like Germany, like France, like the United States, where it was a balance when they proved that it was possible to be on social media, but also have time to buy a good magazine printed. As long as this magazine has a lot of quality. So it's a good paper with good pictures, good design, and good histories. Because sometimes I think that we don't understand well when we talk about, for example, social media. We don't understand that one, the people evolve, change. Maybe when you are a teenager, you are just playing video games and on social media. But once you will become a father and getting older, maybe you will need time to rest and change the way you live. And then maybe you will have the desire to buy a magazine. And also that a lot of people at the same day can be on Twitch and TikTok, and also at certain point saying, now I want to relax and I want to buy a magazine. And we proved that we were right because the magazine is going well. We started just a bunch of journalists losing money, and now the project is winning money. It's winning money that we can invest in pay to our group of journalists to work hard. So it's true that when we and you are completely crazy, but we prove that sometimes being crazy is a good idea.
Okay, so at the beginning of Panenka, you can actually have a platform to write whatever you want in the magazine. So what were you thinking at the beginning days you want to put in the magazine?
The main idea we have is, or at least in my case, is that everywhere in the world you can find a good history. So the idea is that football is the most amazing game because maybe now in United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia they have more money, but the passion and the love for the game is the same everywhere. So everywhere you can find good histories, and that's what we wanted to do. That despite we're living in a country as is Spain that is really strong when we talk about football, we should respect football all around the world because maybe now we have better players, but the passion of the fans, of the passion of the players is the same all around the world. So we're trying to find these histories as a way to understand in a better way the world. And in fact, my first article in Panenka was about a man from Ethiopia that in the 60s worked hard for the African football. So it doesn't seem something quite interesting, but in my opinion it is, because it was about how he dealt against racism, how he was able to break the power, the control that Europeans have on world football. It was the man, this man, Tesemat was the name of this director from Ethiopia, that started a war against FIFA in order to defend that the teams from Asia and the teams from Africa deserve to have one spot directly in the World Cups, and he made it. The first time it happened, it was in Mexico, 1970. Before that, it wasn't the case. Sometimes you could have a World Cup without African teams or without Asian teams, and thanks to the effort of Mr. Tasema, they done it. So I made a research about the history of this man, and I explain it.
Okay, so now you are a really experienced writer, but like you can write whatever you want at the moment if you want to publish a story. So how would you pick a story you want to publish? What do you think before
Well,
you write?
it is not true that I can do whatever I want. In Panenka, more or less, I can do whatever I want because I'm one of the owners. But when I write for a newspaper, it's not the case. It's I'm not so free. But when I'm doing with Panenka, or when I make the proposal to write books, I think it's just quite simple. I just need to find something that excites me, that I say, wow, I want to explain that. I want to hear more about that. Sometimes you just find something and it's like, whoa, what is going on here? You want to listen, you want to know, you want to make questions. Sometimes it's a way to be connected with the passion I used to have when I was a little child and I was going to the stadiums to follow my team. And I was curious. It was all exciting. When you're a little child and you go to a stadium for the first time, always really exciting. The fans, the people singing, the players. It's like you open your eyes and you want to see it all. I'm still this little child that I want to listen and I want to discover histories, and I want to do it at my home, and I want to do it abroad.
Okay, so once you pick the story, how would you start to investigate the story? Maybe you want to, in Panenka, maybe you want to report about Napoli winning the league after several decades. What would you first investigate or think about when you decide to write that story?
Well, in this case, it's two different scenarios. Different. One is if the history still have a lot of people alive. So if you can talk with the people that was there when something happened, it's the best. But sometimes you find that you discover an amazing history about the First World War, and obviously everyone is dead. Then you should go to archives, to old newspapers, and try to research in old papers. If the people is alive, obviously what you want to do is try to speak with these people and have a lot of voices. It's a mix, but obviously the best thing is if you can talk with the people that was there, because they can give you a lot of details. But before doing the interview, a lot of research. Read a lot. I spend a lot of time reading, and for example, I go online and it's a lot of newspapers all around the world online that you can look from old newspapers of decades ago, and for me it's incredible. I'm sitting alone in my home and I can be reading on a newspaper from, I don't know, South Africa in the 60s, and then there I'm doing research to do the interviews, because as I mentioned, for me it's really important to have in your mind the right questions. It's really important to listen to the others, but also to know what you want to ask them.
I see you have a lot of books behind you. So what kinds of books do you read usually?
Well, a little bit. All the books here are books related with history. As I mentioned, I went to college and I study modern history, and so it's a lot of books written by historians about modern history, especially. And then also I love to read novels. I love to read especially about foreign writers. Sometimes I don't read a lot of books of Spanish writers, and it's a shame because I'm not being fair with them. But I prefer to read writers from other countries because then I can feel that I'm traveling from home as a mentioned, and I want to know about all the culture. So I love to read about all the things that are going on all around the world.
How do you think the importance of reading to the football writers in general?
For me, it's important because we have a lot of. In fact, it's a lot of scientists that they prove that if you read, for example, on a book, that change it's quite different than if you read online. So it's good especially for the young people. And now we have even a lot of schools in certain places in the world. I think that in the Netherlands and in Sweden, that they start to give an education to the child without books at the school, just screens, and I discovered that it was not a good idea because when you take the book and you write live, it's good to have more memory. For me, it's very important to read because it's a way to learn, and also when you read, I think it's even good from for your health because you change your speed. Now everything is like I'm always late. I want to know it all, and you're scrolling down the phone, and and sometimes if you find your mental peace and you stop and you take a book, it's like a moment of peace. And I think we need it because we're going crazy. Everything is going so fast. So it's relax, relax, and then suddenly if you can do it, sometimes I struggle to do it because I have a lot of things in my mind. But when I am able to do it, I turn off my phone, I take a book, and suddenly it's like the world stops. And well, I'm really happy when I'm able to do it.
Okay, as last personally, I want to ask you a question because this book I bought, you mentioned Hong Kong inside this book. Why do you mention Hong Kong in the book?
Well, because I've been there 3 times,
Okay.
and it's a city that it really shocks me because it's really interesting. Because it's I think it explains perfectly the world because it's the history of Hong Kong. It's the local history, but also it's the history of two of the biggest nations in the world, as United Kingdom and China is, and the way that the relation with China, United Kingdom, it talks about the past, the future, the different cultures, about modernity. It talks well. I've been lucky because, as I mentioned, I've been there 2 times. And well, it's a city that I really love.
Okay, so you in the book you mentioned 2019. Will you pick 2019 just because of the protest when we
Yes.
were in there?
Yes, because this book, all the histories, all the chapters are related with a protest, a problem. It explains an history. It's not just that you pick a football club and Quiche and you talk about the players and that. I want to speak how football is connected also with society. That's what really interests me.
So do you know anything more than the names of Hong Kong football?
I'm more interested in what the football means to the people, but sometimes even the players.
Okay.
Because sometimes when I'm in a football stadium, I'm really interested in what is going on the field, but also I'm really interested in what is going on in the stands. For me, that's interesting, really interesting, because why football is so important for us all around the world. Why it's so that's incredible. So that's why I love to put football in perspective, no? And that happens also in Hong Kong. Hong Kong in the last years, especially Quiche, but also the clubs, they've been quite successful with good results. And well, when I was there, I've been lucky to be there watching football games. I understand that it was important for the local people.
Do you watch any games in Hong Kong football, or do you talk with any people from Hong Kong football when you were?
Yeah, I watch. I've been in 2 games in Hong Kong. When it was a friendly game played by, it was a team with players of 2 different teams. They call it Mission Hills 11. So they just create this team to play a friendly game. I think it was 2007. I was there as a journalist. I remember because the night before the game it was a big typhoon and a big storm in Hong Kong, and I was a little bit scared because I'm not used to this kind of things. And then I traveled back to Hong Kong to visit a good friend that he was working at the time in Hong Kong in the Barca office. And we went to a local a game of the Hong Kong Championship. It was playing Quiche. Quiche. How would you pronounce it? Quiche?
Yeah, Quiche in English.
Quiche. And I cannot remember the other team, but it was a local game, and well, I think the Quiche won 3-0 this game.
Yeah,
it was 2012, I think.
Because I think one of the problems in football is that you only remember Quiche, Eastern, and Rangers because all the other teams keep changing their names because of the sponsors.
Well, so sometimes these things happen with the sponsors that they change it all. It's true. It's modern football.
Yeah, because in Hong Kong, I think one of the problems in Hong Kong is like we have the teams, but Hong Kong is a small city. We don't have it like
Yes.
Spain we have Getafe and Valladolid here near Madrid. So they use the local location name. But when the football arrived to Hong Kong, it's like using the company's name. Like one of the important teams in Hong Kong now called Lehman is actually a printing company. So they call themselves Lehman because that's of the company.
But that's because obviously that Hong Kong it's just a city, a big city, but obviously you're just a city. But as I mentioned, for me it doesn't matter the size. We should respect all. I don't want to have this point of view thinking, oh, as I come from Spain and we have good teams, so I don't like the rest of football teams. As I mentioned, for me the passion is the same, and everywhere you can find good players, and everywhere you can find people crying and jumping in the stands. For me, that's the same. And then obviously you form in some places they have more resources and they have more players, but the passion for me is the same. Maybe that's why, despite being from a country so strong in football as is Spain, I grew up in a third division stadium. Sometimes the games were not good, but the passion was the same. So when we lost the team, I saw my dad crying because we were relegated to third division. So I'm not this as the Madrid and Barca fans that they used to win and play good football and have the best players. I have a different point of view. For me, football it's the same at the beginning. That's what I love about football, that it can explain histories all around the world.
Okay, so now towards the end of the episodes, do you have any advice to any new football writers or the content creators of football in the new generation that are trying to become part of the media industry?
Just be curious. Have a lot of curiosity. As I mentioned, don't kill the child we have inside, this little child that wants to know a lot of things. Just be curious, have a lot of patience, and if it's possible, try to speak and meet people. It's the way you can meet more people or more histories. That I don't like when people is doing journalism alone and don't talk with anyone, because that's not a good idea. For me, it's about learning from the others. So create like a network of people and work hard, because sometimes it's complicated.
Okay, in the end, I want to ask you one question, because when I was researching about you online, I saw comments like you are the Marcelo Bielsa of football writing because you are less recognized but really larger, have many knowledge about football. Do you know that nickname?
That I'm like Marcelo Bielsa, and I didn't know that. Really, I'm a big Marcelo Bielsa fan, but I think I'm not so crazy as Marcelo Bielsa, and obviously I'm not so talented as Marcelo Bielsa for sure.
Yeah, because I only saw that some comments by other football journalists, so I was curious. Do you know about it?
No, as Marcelo Bielsa, no. First time I heard it, I'm quite shocked, because as I mentioned, I'm a big Marcelo Bielsa fan, and in fact I travel sometimes to South America on my personal holidays, trying to meet Marcelo Bielsa, because I admire so much Marcelo Bielsa.
Okay, I will try to find which website I saw that. Okay, so thank you very much for today for the interview, and I really enjoyed have a conversation with you, and I hope one day I can find you to sign this book, because I really enjoyed the book. So
I'm sure one day we will do it, and thanks for calling me. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Okay, so for the audience, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time with another Spanish guest. So thank you.